Face to Face. I'm Niresh Aliyatambi. My guest tonight is attorney J.M. Wijebandara, representing the NPP, who is no stranger to this program. Welcome, Mr. Wijebandara.
Good evening to you.
So, let's get right down to what's going on in politics today. There seems to be an upheaval in Parliament with several key members of the COPE committee just resigning en masse, and on top of that we have a no confidence motion pending against the speaker as well. What's going on? There seems to be chaos in Parliament.
Actually, absolutely chaos, and all what they have been doing during last 2 years or so, all were chaotic. Niresh, you know, under democratic system, we always talk about social contract theory. There is a contract between the public versus whoever who elect to govern the country. This contract theory always requires two conditions. One is, at an election, for you to get elected, you have to justify you getting elected before the people.
Right.
That's why you introduce your manifestos and give various promises and saying that elect us and we'll work for your good.
That's right.
That is first condition. Then it's not stopped there. During two elections also, Niresh, the rulers or whoever who are in the government mechanism has to get justification from the people for they to be being in power. To being in power. For that they have to show some kind of exemplary governance. Live up to the expectation of the people. At an election, we know, even 2019 election, people has very, very high expectations. They give various kind of promises, and people believe in those and expecting at least 70 or 50% would be achieved by electing the government at their choice. But what happened? In the short period of 2 years, the entire parliament, the executive, president, ministers of cabinet, prime minister, and the parliament also elected by the same party, lost that justification. Lost that justification not only because of Daragale, it is a mass and organized or unorganized, we can say. The entire country came forward, not only in Colombo or Gold Coast, all other suburbs, rural areas, everywhere people came together and say, voice against the government, enough is enough. So, between two elections, though they have an exorbitant mandate, 69% voted, but within the period of 2 years, space of 2 years, they lost entirety of that mandate. Then, what would have been done? That also we have sufficiently discussed in various programs. Elect a non-political government or interim government and get out of this problem. I don't have to say it again. Religious sector, civil society, media, and everybody was suggesting. But what did this particular 225 members elected at the last election, and mainly the 144 members who have been elected to govern, leave aside the opposition, they don't have the decision-making power, who have been elected to govern, what was their reaction? What was their reaction? They initially adhere to the people's voice. President resigned, Prime Minister resigned, Ministers of Cabinet resigned. And in fact, there was voice saying that so and so should not be appointed again.
Right.
This particular family of members, so their affiliates should not be appointed. That also, they abide with that. With the heavy pressure from the people, they abide. Then what should have been the next? That is where entire country went on, parliament went on. That is what we feel today.
Yes.
What parliament did? Did they have a mandate to elect a president? According to social contract theory, when entire parliament, their mandate is lost by voice of people, was there any justification for them to elect a president? Of course, somebody argue, black letter law say, constitution say, if president resign, vacancy has to be filled. I do concede. I do agree with that. But when it's come to democratic governance, things can be done subject to certain conventions, policies, and expectations of the public. back letter law say yes, vacancy has to be filled, but under what circumstances this vacancy arisen? That is the main issue. Under what circumstances? Was it due to death? Was it due to, predictable situation? No, it's a people's revolution. Maybe there are different interpretation to this. Some may take international influence or something, but what we saw is a people's peaceful revolution. There are certain law violation incident that cannot be attributed to entire process. It's a peaceful revolution whereby people has exercised their mandate, the sovereignty power, voice against the government and say, please leave.
Yes.
Please leave. So then they partly left. But the bulk of the parliament members who have been elected by the people in 2019 who lost their mandate during a very short space after Aragale, they elected the president. I mean, if they elected and attempted to justify their power, electing their own person, that would have been different. But what they did so, they took people by surprise, elect a member who had a single seat, and then president elect ministers of cabinet among those 134, 144 people. So cabinet belongs to one and president belongs to one party. Then this set up the situation that lead into this type of chaos. They were interdependent. They mean who? The president on one side. He also having an idea of becoming the next president. So he is politically thinker. He is not, though he expressed the view that I came to get this country out of trouble, but he is doing politics that is well known, seen now. Nobody can say no.
Right.
Right? Though he is always advocate internationally and local forums, I came to get the country out of this trouble, but his behavior talks totally otherwise. And then he attempt to win the next election. On the other hand, that parliament who lost the mandate of the people, justification of the people, they are also trying to keep time, buy time, and at a proper time contest and get into power. But look at the country. We are in a deep economic crisis.
Which seems to be getting worse because we
day
are,
by day getting worse.
We are going more and more into debt. When I say we, it's the government of Sri Lanka
Yes.
which is going more and more into debt every day.
Yes, they are playing a political game. Is it the expectation of people? Maybe intellectual, maybe laymen, maybe professionals, maybe clergies, or maybe civil society. None of them, none of these sectors expect them to involve in a political game like this. Parliament is here certainly in chaos. Chaotic situation is results of this, what I explained moment ago. Now, Parliament want to, they are planning for what? Niresh, that is important. Planning not to get the country or people out of trouble, planning how to win next election, and also how to undermine a new post come into power. That is other thing. People had suffered enough, and every centers, villages, everywhere, people now gradually changing, they demanding and crying for a system change. System change doesn't mean that one of these parties, in Sinhala say Tattumaru Krameta, come into power. No. People gradually think, even young generation, the women's, children's, adults, everybody now, it appears, those who are concerned about what appears in your media or around the country, it appears that there is a demand for system change. Who is most scared for that? Who is most scared for this particular exact system change? All those who were involved in the governance during the last 75 years.
So, in Sri Lanka's political culture and popular culture, we use the terms rulers and those in power, which are completely anti-democratic phrases. I mean, we all use it. It's second nature to us. But in actual fact, a ruler is some kind of king or emperor, and power is very often wielded by dictators. What we actually should be saying is those who are serving in office. But we don't, in Sri Lanka, this tradition is simply not there. They are elected for a term, it's now 5 years, and they cling to this power for that 5 years. Whereas in many other true democracies, such as those that you find in Europe and South America and Central America, they will dissolve parliament and have a further election very quickly, sometimes within a few months that happens. Shouldn't we be moving to something like that instead of this clinging to power and the urge to rule?
That is exactly the root cause of all this. Niresh, entire system of governance. We say political administration as well as public administration. Both seems to be collapsed. Nobody is accountable. Even we see public servants, when it comes to there are various departments, including police, they are duty bound and they are bound by trust to serve for the people, maintain peace and order, and also avoid any social crimes. Of course, you do not need any publicity or public address for that. What you see today, even the police department go around the country having small people gathering and expect that we are going to raid, we are doing this thing, we are doing that thing. Is it that what we expect from the system of governance? Is it that what we expected from the police department, who have been entrusted to ensure law and order, not by publicity, but by conduct? So that also in a very complex situation which is not expected or which are not expected by people. That is one thing. Now we take the parliament. Now parliament, they say that now dual citizen is a person who has a conflict of interest under this situation.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't sell a country and you can't entrust with a dual system who are bound by to other sovereignty, entire decision making power. What's happened in Sri Lanka? Even last 2 weeks, if you watch your news or something, a person came from different country and dual citizen people doesn't mean the general public.
The supporters of that party.
People who expect next nomination list. That is, I have to interpret in that way. Maybe they belong to different political parties, but who are trying to, as you say, hanging for the next nomination list, they are the people who welcome that person. They are the people who welcome that. And also now he came and he went in public and say certain thing, parliament election. How dare we hear from that person's mouth? Who is he to decide the parliament election or presidential election? What about the existing mechanism in the country, constitutional mechanism, election commission, the very clear provision of the constitution? Now, merely because he spoke, now it becomes the story of the street. Whether parliament election or that election. Now today also this in the chaotic parliament, there was a news that they are going to introduce some amendments to the electoral system in respect of parliamentary election.
That's right.
Is this a time to do so? Is this a year to do those things? If you really want to have an electoral reform, certainly yes. We don't say that existing system is perfect, but there are ways and means to do such. But now, when there is a debate created by the interested parties, not by the general public, I always have to separate general public or right-thinking people from those power hungers. They are the one who planning. They are the one who have been planning 2 years to survive. Survive for their own gain, nothing else. So they still adopting rap tactics to ensure that they be in power, and at least either of them, one side of them, the same class, same category, will come into the power at the next election. So to stop any other changes, that is their plan. Today, count my word, I am saying We can predict on our intellectual knowledge. You can predict with your vast experience of journalism. What we predict will not going to be happen. If you ask the constitution say within the first 2.5 years of being elected, if parliament by resolution requests the president to dissolve, can be dissolved.
Right.
Now 2.5 years lapse.
Yes.
Thereafter, in 21st amendment, there is a provision that present parliament will continue until August 2025. That express words are there in the constitution.
Right.
And then after lapse of 2.5 years, there are no provisions in the constitution. There are no provision in the constitution for the parliament to resolve. That is the law. Even if parliament to resolve, president is not bound to accept that.
Right.
Because president is mandatory bound if it happened within first 2.5 years. That is one. It's like how happened the Constitutional Council. It says every decision must be unanimous at the first instance. Our constitution says every major appointment, the Constitutional Council must come to decision unanimously. Word is there.
Right.
If not, at least it should be passed by a vote of more than 5 out of 9.
We have had a lot of tinkering with this Constitutional Council,
Yes.
which was clearly not supposed to happen. And at one point, the executive appeared to seem to decide that the council itself, the Constitutional Council, should be under the executive and not under parliament.
Yes.
So even that very fundamental aspect came into question.
Exactly. They deviate from, you refer to some other countries, international, national concepts, conventions, these hanging parliament and their president always deviate. You remember once president say when their election commission declares an election for local government, president in parliament say, we don't know such an election is declared. That is how he said. So these two factions, I don't know, it's a faction, they will amalgamate very soon. At the moment it appears. Now other thing, what is even the simple student who studies social studies at grade 8 or law student, this system is set up to ensure that majority of people decide who should govern, at least.
Which is what democracy is.
Which is what democracy is. It doesn't mean that you should not hear the minority, but at least the fundamental condition, majority must rule. Now, is the majority ruling in our country now? No. Even the majority elected, they are rejected. And they elected some other person. And then even this no confidence motion, if you have the majority, then you can defeat any no confidence motions.
Right.
That's a pact.
Yes.
With this pact. So we have no high expectation what will happen after this vote on no confidence vote. But this same speaker said, this is another thing. In the parliament he ruled, a proposal passed by parliament becomes a law. That is utterly wrong. This speaker make a ruling in respect of in something, resolution by parliament becomes a law, which is totally incorrect. It is parliament can speak, conduct on the affairs of people only through passing laws, not resolutions. Knowing very well, this present speaker ruled, it remained as a ruling. Resolution becomes a law.
So it appears that many of the parliamentarians should actually be sent back to school to learn something about the fundamentals of lawmaking.
No, they make it a mockery deliberately. They are aware about this thing. They are always thinking how to escape from people, how again mislead the people in some other way.
And how to circumvent the law.
Exactly, how to circumvent and how to circumvent the problem that they face. Not the country pays. That they face a problem rejected by the people. That is a problem. They are day and night trying, planning, doing various things, misleading public. How to overcome them and make their existence stabilize. That doesn't mean the stabilization of the country or economy or the governance system. No, clearly no. What they are trying, how to accept, how to, now they know that they have to face election. Today or day after, whatever is this year, they have to face. So how to overcome? Can you believe another thing? Now you have a party system in this country and you have a secretary of the party sign the district nomination list, whereby a party present a list of candidates before the people. You vote for the party and you select among our candidate list by preference vote people. Now, how many parties contested? Mainly the composition of this party, this Podujana Peramuna, UMP 1, then Tamil, some parties who are contested, JVP contested, those are the parties. Now, look at today's parliament. Among government 144 members, how many fractions and how many names are there? I mean, it's a fact. Even when I came to your program, I was listening to parliament debate. One say that Singhale Peramuna or something, various name. I mean, we don't know at the time of we gave our vote. Was there such a party was in existence?
In fact, it sometimes makes you dizzy. It's very difficult to keep track of who's in which faction and who's allying with whom.
Yes, but then I have to, even you and me, duty bound to tell the truth to public. Don't get misled by these things. The various faction, various coalition will come, all the ex-president will come on one platform. Those are the possibilities, right? Now, during next election, you just look at, now, incumbent president, it is well-known factor he want to contest. But he doesn't know how to contest from which party he doesn't know. Is that the democracy in our country? At least prevail. Forget about all misdeed they did before this Aragale. Actually, once election is held, the majority elected the government. The majority party become the president and the prime minister and ministers of cabinet. At least that was there with all misdeeds. But what happened now? What is happening right now? No mandate. So now these people now planning to contest by various parties, go inside the parliament building, then get together. That is the rap tactic now they have been adopted.
So Mr. Wijebandara, let's look at some of the other news which came out today, which you referred to, a proposed amendment to the Constitution which would supposedly reduce the number of elected members. Right now, of the 225, 196 are directly elected by the people, yes, and 29 by are appointed onto the national list. Now, the national list itself is very controversial. Over the decades, various strange individuals have been appointed, including many who had lost in the election, who have been rejected by the public, by the voters, are then appointed onto the national list. And the national list was, correct me if I am wrong, it was supposed to be for professionals to be appointed to Parliament to give their expertise and their knowledge. Yes. But now, quite apart from 29 being appointed in that way, the proposal is to appoint far more, possibly as many as 65, and bring down the number of elected members to about 160. So, what do you think of that? Is this not reducing the people's mandate?
Of course, now if you take the strict law to change of the composition of the parliament, need a referendum, it's a must. Change of the composition of the parliament. maybe other like, broadcasting authority bill or prevention of terrorism bill, and Supreme Court say this thing and this thing, you amend this thing, then you can go for 2/3 only. But changing the composition of parliament need a referendum. It's a must. So these are the things, again I am telling, to take the people's real direction to some other way, or create uncertainty with regard to whether they are going to conduct election or not. Throughout they are trying to this. Now is this a time to introduce, and who said, have you ever heard to any from intellectual sector anywhere to expand the number of nationalist people? Have you ever, before asking this question today, have you ever heard from any sector? Was there a requirement for such? Was there any agitation or suggestion or proposal to that effect? I believe
well, the national list itself has failed.
Yes.
Simply over the decades, we have not had very many professionals appointed to it. Instead, we have failed politicians
Yes.
who are appointed. My own electorate, a few elections back, rejected the minister who ran, and lo and behold, he was appointed to the national list.
Yes.
So this is quite common. But let's look at, are these signs of desperation by those who are in office?
Yes, of course. They actually, this is to general public should know. Don't get misled during this election year. And they are trying their level best to create an uncertainty among the voters whether the election going to be held or not. That's a topic. And whether by adopting this kind of law reforms, will there be any possibility to postpone elections? Will it impact the presidential election? So these are the things, I have again used the word rap tactics, that is been adopted by rejected members of the parliament to ascertain whether this kind of trap tactic will work for them either to get into power or postpone the election without a date. That is the only expectation. But when it comes to law reform or constitutional amendment, the people are expecting more than what they are planning. It should be to ensure the good governance system, to ensure the social contract theory, to ensure the respect of people's rights. For those kind of things only we touch the constitution. Constitution is the supreme law of the country. If there is a real problem in the constitution, of course we will have to amend in consultation with the people and relevant sectors of the society. But was there any, even last 1 year, even the Honorable Minister of Justice, did he had any forum or something to discuss whether this nationalist will work? Have you ever heard though? I haven't. So now these are sudden things. Something like bombshell, they just drop in the agenda of parliament and get the debate, and debate also talk always chaotic, no substance. And then vote, of course, one thing we know, they will never vote to shake this their system.
Well, on that note, I'm afraid we are unfortunately out of time. My thanks to my guest, Attorney J.M. Wijebandara, representing the NPP. Thank you very much for appearing again on our show. And thank you very much to our audience. Thank you and good night.